Hey, Dave. I was curious kind of what you've seen from Boston College defense through the first 5 games of the with the new staff there.
They are big, stout, strong. They hold their gaps. They play a lot of middle close coverage, a lot of three deep, a lot of cover one coverage. They like to crowd the line of scrimmage, almost like an old school 4-4 defense where they're going to try to overload you up front, handle your gaps. They're never out of the gap. They run into gaps hard, set the line of scrimmage. They're very stout in the run game. They will challenge you in the pass game. They'll come up and play some man free. They put their free safety 18, 19 yards deep and let him go play center field. So they will play some cover one looks. But their deal is that they're going to try to take you out of your run game early and then get into some exotic stuff on third down.
Next question from Rod McKenzie from 247 Sports.
Hey, Dave, it seems like recently there's been fewer two-back sets. Does that have a correlation with Jordan Mason not being available?
Not so much that as to who we were playing, Rod. You know, a lot of the times the scheme will dictate, you know, the formations that we were in. When we were in Louisville, we were in a lot more two tight end sets. Schematically, we thought that the best things against Clemson were going to be more one tight end sets. But you certainly could, you know, against this group, you could see a bunch more two back. And we're going to try to always be as multiple as we possibly can with the personnel groupings. I like what the running backs are doing. They're playing at a high level, and there's good depth there. Hopefully we get Jordan back soon so that he can add into that mix. But it's more dictated by the scheme of who we're playing.
Next question comes from Ken Segura from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Hey, Dave. I had a question for you about Omarion, and I know you missed him he had that deep ball on Saturday. But is getting him more touches, is that something you're trying to do, or is it just kind of it comes and it goes? Or
Yeah, absolutely, and I really do believe that, you know, defenses are very cautious about him running by him. I mean, he's run by everybody that we've played. He ran by him on Saturday. We didn't take a whole lot of shots in the second half. I think that physically he, you know, is very capable of beating guys in one-on-one situations. I also think that you got to find ways to get him the ball underneath, you know, dump him the ball, screen him the ball, throw him a little shallow, maybe hand it to him. He's just too dynamic. He's too athletic. That's something that we've worked on. We called a few plays for him on Saturday. And the coverage dictated that it didn't go to him. So yes, I mean, he's very explosive. I think he's an elite, athletic, explosive guy that we have to find ways to get the ball in his hands.
Next question is another one from Kelly Quinlan.
Has Jamir kind of taken away maybe from some of the slot production that you guys have had because of his versatility, and he's just so dynamic with the ball in space that maybe it sort of kind of lends itself to scheme for him versus maybe some of the stuff for AB or some of the other slots?
Yeah, and I think him, you know, coming out of the backfield is a tough matchup for anybody. So there have been, you know, a bunch of plays that have been called to try to isolate him on linebackers, get him on some rails, you know, running against a linebacker and reading out the coverage. You know, one of the ones that we ran on Saturday, we ended up throwing, you know, a little shallow, and Jeff didn't really read it the right way. He got kind of forced back to the other side. We ended up throwing it to the tight end, but that play was called to go to AB. So it was a combination of AB and Jamir coming out of the backfield. So, you know, you have to be able to isolate those two guys on the linebackers, the safeties. That was a big thought, you know, that we had coming in. The one that we got, we ran right by him. You know, so Jamir's, you know, emergence of being able to catch the balls out of the backfield lends itself to, you know, high percentages and being able to create explosive throws just by getting him the ball. So it has been a little bit of a mix of that and, you know, the ability of the quarterback to read the ones that we have and the defense, you know, basically telling us where to throw the ball.
Time for a couple more for Coach Patenaude. We'll begin with one from Ken Segura from the AJC, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up with another one from Rod McKenzie. Ken?
Dave, I had a question for you about James Graham. Obviously, I'm sure he's in a tough spot, having been a starter last year and now not being one. And I notice he's not on the ATL chart. But kind of how is he doing, and what does he need to do to get back on the list?
He was great. He was a little sick last week. That's why he wasn't, he had like the sniffles kind of thing last week, and that's why he wasn't on there. He's out practicing today, had a good day. He's been terrific, man. I actually had a conversation with him yesterday. I pulled him in, and I said, listen, I really appreciate the fact how you're handling yourself. You've been really mature with it. I understand you want to play. As crazy as it sounds, the week before against Louisville, he got, we give out awards for guys who are, hyped up and into the game and like the Juice Crew type of stuff, and he was one of them. So I thought that spoke volumes of the fact that he was deeply involved with what we're doing. He was cheering him on. When Jeff comes to the sideline, he's talking to Jeff and pumping him up, or hey, this is good, or this is what the defense was, or he's been great. I mean, he's handled it like a pro. He understands he's got to be ready to go, and he's just got to be able to stay the course and stay into it mentally. It's tough. It's tough when you were that guy, and now you're not playing. And but his demeanor has been great. He has got a big smile on his face 95% of the time. He's doing great academically. He's handling himself off the field. So I couldn't be any more proud of what he's doing.
And final question for Coach Patenaude today is from Rod McKenzie from 247 Sports.
Hey, Dave, it seems from time to time there's been some issues with some low snaps to Sims. Has that affected what he's trying to do with maybe perhaps the intermediate game, or throwing the ball out of the backfield?
Sure, I think anytime that you get a bad snap and you get moved off your spot, it's tough, and especially if your eyes go down, and like the one fumble that we had on Saturday was a low snap. That being said, Mike Minahan has played 5 college football games as a center, and that game was his best game overall snapping the ball. So he's gotten better. He takes great pride in it. He was down about that, the one snap. Jeff's got to do a little bit better job of bending his knees there and kind of, being a little bit more flexible and catching the snap and that type of thing. Mikey was down. I saw him after the game. He was in there Sunday morning watching the tape, and I went walking through the meeting room, and I said, listen, bro, you had one bad snap the whole day. You got a lot better snapping the ball, and you just got to believe in what the process is and keep doing it, because he graded out very well. But there's a lot on a center's plate, especially if you haven't played that position before, and he's got to recognize the fronts. He's got to call the protections. He's got to ID Mike's in the run game. That then especially against those guys last week. I mean, it's a buzzsaw in there. They never give you the same look. There's linebackers running through. They're covering you. They're not covering you. The guy's rocking out of the front. He's rocking back into a front. So there was a lot of moving pieces. I was really proud with how he handled it. And Jeff's got to be able to field some of those. And if it is a bad snap, get your eyes back up. And if you get knocked off your first read, dump the ball. Drop the ball off, hit the shallow, hit the back, or take off running, which he had to do a few times. So anytime that you don't get a clean snap, it does throw off the timing in the pass game. But that's something that we work on during the week to say, all right, listen, if you get knocked off your first read right now, just dump the ball, go to the next one, and don't make a bad snap into a bad play because you get frazzled and you try to do too much.